Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. This is Autodidactic channel. Hope you're having an awesome day. Thank you for joining me. And today I just wanted to take a look at some random pics really of architecture in Australia. And just again how the timeline doesn't match up, because Australia is a new country. It was found dead as Australia in 1788. And within 100 years it was completely built out. So I just want to have a look at the narrative and the architecture of Australia. So let's jump into it. Okay, so this is just a collection of early architecture in Australia. This is the World's Fair building, the Sydney International Exhibition building in Sydney, Australia. And this was opened in 1879. And this is a picture of just before it opened, basically. You can see they've still got construction bits and pieces around. And this is the main building. So just wanted to point a few things out. First of all, look how old these columns, these pillars look. Look at the top here. They look very aged. This one here too. And also, I've mentioned before, these lights that go straight into these, stone pillars and things, and you often see them on bridges. The narrative is that maybe they may have had electricity here, so they may have said it was wired. But with the old buildings, they're normally put in before electricity, so they're gas, and then suddenly they're electricity. But where's the wiring? How'd they get the wiring under, through all the ground? I mean, that's a small one, but when you see them in cities, there's a big question there. This fence, now you can see, and these gates, it's all the old world wrought iron. That design that we see, you see it everywhere. But when you look at it, it doesn't look too new. It looks like it's in good condition, but it doesn't look freshly made, freshly painted or anything, does it? This wooden fence, this looks freshly painted and newly made. That's wood. Same with these ones down here, these little wooden ones. See, all this, that's new. And this wrought iron, which is, far superior and requires so much more, manufacturing and technology to produce it. It looks really, really old and just sort of been sitting there forever, and the wood's brand new. So, what's going on here? How come they're building with wood when they apparently could do all this? I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe that's a temporary fence. I could be wrong, but this still does not look brand new, this fence. And this is the building, and you can see it's just like a work site, just pretty messy, no one around. There's an old shack shed up here, and this bottom bit looks like it's been, newly covered. You can see they haven't finished, only got up to here. So again, is this what's going on? Are they just, refacading these buildings, repainting them, recovering them, adding their statues and things? And then up here we have, these are all, it looks like they're enclosed with glass. And they've got, I think they're statues inside them. So, and of course, they've all got their Antiquitech antennas. So what are they functioning as? Because if they're glass and they're enclosed, that could be some kind of, vacuum tube or something. And, God knows what these are. Because a lot of these statues, they could just be stylized technology, basically. Big domes. And look at this, the flag. This is Sydney, Australia, and the biggest flag is the US flag. So I don't know what's going on there. Flags, flags, flags. Now, huge structure. And then down in here you can see we've got little cart, horse and cart here, another horse and cart. So it's all horse and cart, a few people standing around, and with this they've built this massive building. And is this an obelisk? Because look at the top of it. That looks like an obelisk. But it looks massive if it is. I don't know. This is another view of the Sydney exhibition, 1879. And again, you just see, the dichotomy. This is a dirt road. It's not even paved, but next to it we have, a nice stone walkway with a little stone wall. Again, the same fencing out here. And look what happens here. Now, again, behind this we've got a wooden fence. It doesn't look temporary, that one, but who knows. But yeah, wooden on the inside and the wrought iron out here. And look, this is the ticket office. And they've literally just shoved a bit of corrugated iron in there to hook it up to the doorway. And look at this doorway. Is this an optical illusion? I was looking at this before. Look at this. It goes right across there, but look at the base. It goes backwards. And it's got this kind of pillar thing in there. So what's going on there? Is that just me? Let me know. And of course, these guys are standing around saying, "Yep, we built it." And again, look down here. Right, I've got the road, and they've just pushed dirt up over the footpath to get to the entrance, or the ticket office. And these guys, they're there to make sure that you've had the Jabberwocky. And this house too. This looks like something that's been built recently. All the rest of this doesn't. This just doesn't look new. I mean, it could be, not finished or drying. I'm not sure, but that's a big structure, and it doesn't look new. That's all I'm saying. This is Adelaide Railway Station. Just for randomness, just to show you it's a big old world building. I've got the pillars up here, pillars here, and up here too, so it's always symmetrical. And yeah, everywhere. This is, Melbourne Parliament House. Now, this is a better depiction of these lamps, right? See how they're sitting up on, stone pedestals? And these ones are, especially up here, they're on like this bridge thing. So it's all, cement and stone underneath them and then down into the ground. So if these started off as gas and went to electricity, where's all the wiring? How did they do that? It says about this building, the Parliament House in Melbourne, that it was constructed in stages starting in 1855. So that definitely would have been gas. And then the chambers, then the library in the eastern wing up until 1860. Queen's Hall, 18... so this actually did take a while to build, this one. West front stairs to 1891. I'd be interested to get some pictures of that. I might have to look into that. So basically, finished in 1891. So, I don't know. Was there electricity around then for street lighting? And this is a dictionary on electricity by CIGRE and AHEF. And basically it's on Australia, the history of electricity in Australia. And it says Australia was constituted as a self-governing nation on the 1st of January 1901, a federation of 6 states. European settlement began in 1788 on the mainland, and over the ensuing years, 6 British Crown colonies were established, later to become the founding states of the nation in 1901. Electricity supply began in Australia's colonial era in about 1880. So all these buildings are basically just around this time. So, it's iffy. They could have, they could argue the technology was there pretty much for anything 1880 plus, basically. Before that, it's got to be gas. Blah, 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 blah. So, there you go. 1880. Model of the 1855 design. go. Gosh, what's that? Some kind of model. Looks like it's 3D print. Now this is 1877 design for West Front and Dome by Peter Kerr. Now look at the size of this building compared to the people. That's one big building. Here we go. Okay, so Parliament House, 1890, after completion of the West Front. I thought it was all finished in 1891. And before the installation of the lamps. Oh, there we go. So, obviously taken from the other side. I don't know, looks, what's missing there? Maybe there's more down here or something. It just looks a bit different, but there you go, 1890s. And is that finished? Yeah, I think it is. Why does it look so different? This just looks a lot dirtier, doesn't it? I mean, this would be, well, there's beetle there, so this would be 60s probably. But yeah, there you go, an early photo, everything's there, up off the ground. So that's the first photo. All these beforehand are just drawings, right? So we've got no photos, at least in Wikipedia. Yeah, showing it actually in the finished different stages. And look at these things. I mean, it looks like the Spanish army's up there about to shoot us. And these guys are hunching down. But yeah, I haven't seen these before. You can see them on this one. I mean, it's not the best resolution, but see this sort of staggered up and they pop out like that. I just haven't seen them before, and they're all over it. So that's very, very interesting. And this is it today. So there we go, they've painted it. There we go, it's probably all they ever did. So yeah, so 1855 to 1891. So it took 40 years or so to build this, not quite. And now this is inside the Centennial Exhibition under the dome. Looking eastwards, doesn't really say, I think it's Sydney. Engineering Commerce. So this is what it was like inside those buildings. Just massive, oversized. This is a painting, but again this is, it doesn't have a date, but there's a horse and cart here. So, you know, maybe up to the 1920s, you know, maybe at the latest. But we have these, you know, these, which we've noticed a lot lately, these sort of power pole things, but they don't have lines coming off them. And this one's floating. This is magical. But they do seem to have, you know, one line going here and one coming out here. So, but you see them and they're not connected to anything. So if this is, let's say, 1900, this is Sydney, look how built out it is. Just, I mean, this is a painting, but it's a lot of work, you know, from nothing in 1788. Now this one, let's check. This is Circular Quay, Sydney Harbour, 1900s. So again, 120 years or 112, is it, after, you know, foundation. And look at this place. And it's all, you know, the same, you know, the Greco-Romano that they call it, and the portals and columns and everything. You know, it's the same architecture everywhere and completely built out. Melbourne, Collins Street. Let's see if we've got a date for this one. Colin and Swanston, it says, but Collins Street, horse and cart, so, you know, turn of the century kind of time. And look at this place. It's just wall to wall, just built out. big wide roads, trams everywhere. Melbourne still has trams, one of the few cities to retain some of them. And here again, here's these poles, right? And there's no wires coming off these bits, but you can see there's wires down below. So they're connected, but these aren't connected. Are these gathering energy? What do you think? And you know, spires everywhere. And I don't know what the population was at the turn of the century, but you know, don't know what the day or the time is, but you know, there's a lot of buildings here, so is there enough people? Because this is a fully built out city. And this is the thing about Australia, it's too much infrastructure for the time frame. This one is corner of Collins and Swanston Streets. So this is just around the corner from the last one, but you can see up here, just wall to wall, huge, you know, old world buildings. And look at the line down here. It's not level. Covered walkways, and we get this the different coloured bricks which you see everywhere. And yeah, maybe to tell us what kind of building it was. You can see them on the archways as well, or it may actually have a function. They may be like different materials, different substances that are, you know, reacting against each other and creating fields and things. But yeah, just, you know, I mean, look at this. This is Melbourne. Probably, this one's a bit later, 1930s or so, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, just packed out. The Colonial Mutual Building. Now this one, I hope I've got a front view, but yeah, in the doorway here, there's this massive 2 columns with a big statue on top in this massive archway. It's really weird. Pretty sure they knocked this one over. This is what, 40s, 50s maybe. Got the shops in there, but look at this archway. And just a huge, just mammoth building, really, when you look at the size of the people. Equitable, yeah, so, we do, yes, so this is the front of it. So you can see this has all been closed in and built down. They've got steps going up here on the sides to smaller doorways. So was this originally this big, or was it even bigger? We don't know. And look at this entranceway. And of course, you know, the next question is, you know, if you're going to put all your resources into buildings like this, which, you know, just as a side note, look exactly the same as the buildings in the world's fairs and exhibitions, why would you then go and knock them all over? You know, some of them are within 20 years, but definitely all of them within 100 years for sure. Just bowled them all over. They had fully built cities, and they just started knocking everything over and replacing it with crap. You know, why would they do that? This is just an overview, Sydney exhibition ground. So you can see this one's, you know, not as big and grand as some of the ones that we see. I guess it depends how much they find, right? Australia was found, not founded. This is the Coffee Palace. Pretty cool building. And look at the angle on this one. Going straight downhill, you can see a bit of a window down there popping out. And these again. There's one over here, and you can see there's no wires going between these. There's no wires on this one at all. And same with this. So, yeah, they free energy collectors of some kind. And of course this building. Big spire at the top. Antiquitech everywhere. And this one, there were several of these. I think there was one in Sydney, but there was definitely some around the world that were pretty much exactly the same. I think they knocked this one over. I'll have to check. This is just another view of it. And look what we have here. The TARDIS. But it's sitting on a little piece of wood over the gutter, so not sure what it is. It might be an early telephone. Did they have telephones? Turn of the century? Maybe. Here's those things again. No wires. And I'm not sure how tall this is. Not sure what the perspective is here, but it looks pretty tall. You know, you've got to ask if this is gas. How big's the light? Even if it's electricity, you know, with early electricity, how many lumens would it need to be to actually be of any use? You know, it would have to, you know, sort of shine a big light. You know, if it was down here, that'd be a lot easier, right? So yeah, these street lights and lamps and everything. Here's another one of these things with no wires. Like in a tree. Bird on a wire. And just, you know, everything, right? It's all the same. Portals, the Antiquitech sort of balustrades and the spires and the balls and the arched windows, the porticos, the pillars. It's just, you know, and that's the thing, you know, you see like buildings like this incorporate all of it into one, pretty much all the different styles into one building. And then they go, oh, no, you get one that's just this style. You know, and they say, oh, that's just a style. But clearly these things mean something. They're doing something. Or maybe they were just so good they could do it, you know, easily. Who knows? But I don't think we built it, you know, whenever they say 18. Let's have a look. Coffee palaces. A coffee palace was an often large and elaborate residential hotel that did not serve alcohol, most of which were built in Australia in the late 19th century. There you go. Here it is. Built in Collins Street, Melbourne in 1888, was the largest and grandest coffee palace ever built. It was demolished in 1973. Why would you demolish that? Look at that. Temperance hotels were first established in the UK in the 1850s to provide an alcohol-free alternative to corner pubs. So yeah, that's what I thought. So basically, it's like you know, a hotel is in a pub, like where people just go and meet, but they sit around and drink coffee and tea instead of alcohol. But look at the size of that thing. I mean, it's literally a hotel like you would stay in. I mean, maybe you could stay there as well. In the 1870s, the idea caught on in Australia, where the Appellation Coffee Palace was almost universal, and dozens were built in the 1880s and the 1890s. Dozens within 12 years, or whatever, 15 years, 1880s and early 1890s, including some of the largest hotels in the country. Due to the depression of the mid-1890s, some became ordinary hotels and others were converted to different uses. Residential hotels, the name continued to be applied to smaller residential hotels and guest hotels. So they were residential hotels, but they just didn't serve alcohol. I mean, I guess they must have had restaurants and stuff and meeting places, because it wouldn't make sense if you're just renting a room. Why would you care if there was alcohol? And I don't know. Who knows? So down here in Australia, the same imperative for their construction applied as in the UK, as expressed at a meeting at the Melbourne Temperance Hall in October 1878 to build a place as attractive as possible for the working man, which should combine every facility for harmless amusement and intellectual enjoyment with the advantages of a large hotel, the only difference being that coffee should be vended instead of intoxicating liquors. Major point of difference to the UK examples, however, was that they were built on a business basis rather than a subsidised or not-for-profit venture. The first coffee house companies were founded soon after that meeting in Melbourne, Sydney and Adelaide, and first to be built in was the Collingwood Coffee Palace, open in Smith Street, Fitzroy, 1879. And so then they built them for, you know, roughly 15 years. And when they finished, there was a depression. And so they all got converted into something, or most of them got converted into something else, or turned into just normal hotels. So that's an interesting story. Smith Street, let's see, is the Coffee Palace? No, the Coffee Palace is not there. So there we go, the Federal Coffee Palace. And here's another view. Here we have the Foreign London office with the lowest rates of interest. Solomon. I can't read that though. But yeah, horse and cart. Oh, look at this one down here. I wonder if that's the ground level. But yeah, down there as well, completely built out. Look at the angle down here, down the road. You can see the windows popping out of the ground. No windows here. Steps going up. And even the building next to it, just, you know, it's the same. But that is an ornate building. I will give them that. Whoever built it did well. I can't find any construction photos though. And this is a castle in Sydney, Australia. Man-made walls into the water here. Here's our builder. And this is Fort Macquarie. And we've got our wooden boats. You see this guy here, he's built this castle out of stone. And then he's just built some wooden boats. He's got his little shed. He's got his poles for tools. His big pole for big jobs. And this shape, this cross shape, this is in all the movies, right? You know, all the movies with the knights and kings in Europe. All the castles have this on the walls, don't they? There's another one there. And this is Sydney, Australia. And clearly, that's a castle. Now this is another shot. And you can see man-made shoreline. And then another wall up here. And look, a turret. I mean, this is a castle. And the castle in the background. I mean, so this is, you know, castles aren't what they tell us, but this is, you know, the structure that we're told are castles. Look at this wall though. Look at the angles on it. All right, this is a star fort. So Fort Macquarie was in Sydney. Went through a few changes. They even turned it into a tram station at one point. Fort Macquarie and the North Shore, Sydney, circa 1885. So you can see our nice turrets popping up, you know, looking a little bit short. Some nice houses in the background. You know, I can believe that, you know, they built some of these. Some of them look rather big though. But, you know, again, like just these, you know, ratty wooden fences, right? But they built this. They just didn't have enough, you know, enough materials left for fencing. Here we've got our cannon row, of course, because it's a fort. So the original name of Bennelong Point and the finger of land on which Fort Macquarie was built was Inboogaloo or Jumboogaloo. Farm Cove was Eulaw, or Sydney Cove was Warrane. On 25 November 1789, an Aboriginal man named Bennelong was captured, and brought to Governor Phillip. Eventually, 3 huts were built on this bit of land for Bennelong, his wife, and other Indigenous visitors. Visitors? Okay. The first attempt at fortifications were erected here in July 1788. So that's the year that they landed. They had to build fortifications. Really? Why? Why did they need to protect themselves? From what? When Lieutenant Dawes was directed to build a small redoubt there, when finished in November 1788, it held 2 brass 6-pounder guns. So they built it pretty quick, a few months. Had some things, and then, oh my God, is that all they're going to give us? In 1798, a half-moon battery was built on the extreme end of the point. It was described in 1802. Well, who built the castle? In 1817, Governor Lachlan Macquarie was directed that a new fort be built on the site at Bennelong Point, and this was completed in February 1821. So what are we talking? 4 years. In 1901, the New South Wales Minister of Works decided to remove Fort Macquarie. A naval drill shed on the site was also pulled down, and both buildings were replaced with the Fort Macquarie tram depot, whose crenulated walls imitated the original towers. And they're saying that they ripped this down and rebuilt something that looks exactly the same. And how often do we hear that story? So not much there. Built in 4 years. That's all it really says. They built this castle. They don't mention who built all the lining here on the river and how that was done. Where'd all the rock come from? Where'd all the mortar come from? Who was building it? What about the iron? I mean, that's not much of a story for a castle that was built, very early on. Probably in the narrative, that probably was the biggest building of its time in Australia when they built it, according to the narrative. But nothing, no history, nothing. Parliament House, Melbourne. That one's just a drawing. Parliament House, Adelaide. You can see a bit bigger. And this again, the refacading. See, they've even put the Tuscan tiles on the roof, which are just tiles that are different colours, basically. They colour it, the Tuscany colour, and then put this sort of stonework, edging around everything to give it a different look. And wacko the diddly-o, brand new building. But no doubt if you went in there with a hammer and sort of hacked away at the wall there, you'd probably find red brick. This is Parliament House, Government House in Hobart, Tasmania. And Hobart, Tasmania is a long way away from anywhere. It's apart from South America, it's the closest point to Antarctica, pretty much, apart from some islands. And you get architecture like this. There's also a star fort down there, of course, because the French and Italians went down there when they were building them in the 1600s, apparently. But yeah, look at this building. Just massive old world building in Hobart. Belfry up the top, got our little dome, Antiquitech. And these you used to see a lot too. These chimneys and these pottery or clay sort of pipe tube things that they put on the top. But you don't see that so much anymore, but they used to be everywhere. And just those, the clay pipes, they used to be everywhere, the glazed ones. They just used to be everywhere. You don't find them so much anymore. People used to collect them and smash them, but they were everywhere. This is Perth. Perth Parliament House. Red brick. And see again how they do. They just sort of change the facade. They've put the edging on it. They've done it around here, but they've left most of it red brick, so it looks different again, right? And a boat, a ship's mast. So this one's for Martin Leedke. Just letting everyone know it's a ship, right? Under Admiralty law, the Phoenicians' law of the ocean. This is not a castle at all. This is Government House in Sydney, of course. It's not a castle at all. I mean, come on. Look at the size of this doorway. You can't really see how big this is because there's nothing for reference, but a person would probably be, I don't know, this high kind of thing. It's just massive in there, and the doorway going in is the same size. I've got cathedral windows on it. Look at this one. Turrets. Just a little bit silly. This is Sydney Government House. And if we read down here, we'll see in 1835, the British government agreed that a new government house in Sydney had become a necessity, and the royal architect, Edward Blore, was instructed was instructed to draw up plans. Construction commenced in 1837 and was supervised by Colonel Architect Mortimer Lewis and Colonel Barney of the Royal Engineers. Stone, cedar and marble for the construction were obtained from various areas in New South Wales. Oh, well that's not very specific. A ball in honour of the birthday of the Queen Victoria was held in the new building in 1843, although construction was not complete. The first resident, Governor George Gipps, did not move in until 1845. So commenced 1837, so 8 years to build. And I thought we were actually going to get something there when it said stone, cedar and marble for the construction were obtained from various areas. So again, you know, one of the earliest, you know, most grandest buildings, a government building, but we don't get much, right? Government House, with its setting in Sydney Harbour, has a garden area of 5 hectares or 12 acres and is located south of the Sydney Opera House overlooking Farm Cove. So there you go, built in 8 years, finished 1843. So, you know, it was finished, 1845. So that's literally, 57 years after a boatload of people turned up on the shore and there was nothing here at all, nothing, just trees and some native people that they wanted to kill, apparently. And this is the thing, right, they had to build all these forts because, you know, they were just, you know, backwards native people, they tell us, with no tech and no nothing, but they had to build all these forts, you know, to keep them out. It's I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is it again, a side view. Clearly not a castle. Now this is Sydney, I believe, but of course just a drawing, the exhibition centre. And the other, this is the thing about, photography. That's not a very good one. That's Melbourne International Exhibition Building, which is still there. And this is inside it. There you go, big dome. Hast thou made them? All the earth is full of thy riches. The earth is full of the glory of the Lord. Look at the size of these people. I mean, you know, the question is really more why than how. I mean, definitely how. I mean, show me how they, you know, like they don't make buildings like this anymore. They can't. It's too expensive. You know, we have these buildings that were built temporarily out of wood, but they're standing 130 years later and all this kind of stuff. You know, the Crystal Palace, which they apparently moved and they built it when the glass wasn't available, although that narrative has changed since I made my first video on that. I've noticed Wikipedia sort of changed their narrative there a bit. But yeah, definitely a year ago, when you looked into the glass, no one was making enough glass or panels big enough for the Crystal Palace. And, you know, so we get the same thing here, just lots of glass, right? I haven't really looked into it, but I think I'll have to, into the glass manufacturing in Australia, because all these exhibition centres, I mean, and not to mention just all the buildings, just have so much glass. You know, and if they're building them like, you know, Government House Sydney, 1845, where'd all the glass come from for that castle? You know, it's just ridiculous. This is Melbourne Parliament House again, with all the Spanish dudes sitting up there. And this is, the lights. So if they started off gas, how did they convert them to electricity? And this, you know, the age of this one, you know, that may have been electric, but there's definitely buildings out there that were built, you know, with lights up like this, that started off gas. Wow. Look at that for symmetry. What's that one? That is Prell's Building, 34 Queen Street, Melbourne. Oh, hang on. Built in 1890, demolished in the 1970s, of course. And look, complete mud flooder. Stairs going up, windows getting shorter as I go down here. And clearly this level is a bit smaller than the rest of these levels. But look at that. It's not the best photo, unfortunately, but you can see it's just completely covered in ornateness. And look at all these porticos. And look, triangle, triangle, arch, triangle, triangle. Same thing, always the same. So you've got arches up the middle and then triangles. Arches. Just craziness. And even this doorway, look, it looks like they've had to drop it down, build steps up, because if they put it there, well, they would have had to build a lot of steps. So they've just made it massive. And obviously there must be more steps inside. But yeah, it only lasted, what, 80 years. This is George Street at Haymart from Sydney. Roof of the church, roof of the manse. I don't know what that means. So early Sydney. Now, no paving, just dirt roads, horse and cart, and just, again, these things. We don't have wires. This, what's that? Is that a light? Gas light, maybe? If it is, it's too high. Palace Emporium, Anthony Horden and Sons, Universal Providers, Gorston Seed and Plant Merchant. There you go. But just old world. I mean, this is actually a really better photo. But look at the size again. Look at this dude. So he's like this height. So at the top of the stairs, he's like here. It's a big doorway, very big level. You know, if a new country, why would you build levels that are twice the size they need to be? You know, just because you had so much materials and workers and stuff, you know. But yeah, old world Sydney. Oh, what's going on here? This is, it just says Sydney 1800s. So this looks like, I don't know, building something, dock work. They've got their train track, they're digging out dirt by hand. Got a few people in suits. I'm not sure what's going on here. Construction of some kind. Or deconstruction. It's the same thing, you know, everything's, you know, pretty much always pretty much built. But yeah, I have no idea what's going on there, but clearly something is going on there. York Street, Sydney, looking south. Again, early picture, no cars. This is, what, 1880s, I'd say. Nice big dome here, a bit of Antiquitech. Why not? Old world buildings, and look at this thing. Because this is what you do in a new country. You just start whacking up buildings like this. Why not? You know, but in all these, you know, all the movies, and they did heaps, you know, especially in the 80s when they had the mini-series. Mini-series were popular. And they had heaps, you know, about early Australia and the gold rush and all this stuff. They never showed buildings like this. It was always just shacks. And, you know, so if this really was happening, why weren't they showing it in those, you know, so-called, you know, historical sort of mini-series? I mean, look at this. Look at these columns. And dirt roads. Don't know what that is. Just like a wooden fence thing. But, I mean, yeah, again, looks like an early photo. It looks pre-car, like pre-1900s. But this is what they were doing, building buildings like this. Because they had nothing else to do. Now, I think is that the same building that we saw before? No. That one is the APA building, Melbourne, built 1889. And again, they didn't level it. Going on an angle down here. And, you know, this thing again, right? Triangle, arch, 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 triangle, arch, arch. This one's got, that would be repeated here, no doubt. But they're always very symmetrical, you know, like triangle, triangle, arch, arch, rectangle, rectangle. So what does this all mean? Look at this tower with all its bits popping off it. Is that the roof, or is that like a cast iron railing? I'm not sure. But pretty cool looking building. And of course just everything else around it just, you know, built out. So this isn't the best picture, unfortunately, but that's an exhibition building in Melbourne today, still standing. This is not a castle. This is the University of Sydney, of course. Look at that. What's the explanation? Why did they do this? Just, you know, is that on the building, that dome thing? Don't know where that is. This is obviously a modern picture. Massive cathedral up here attached to it. Belfry. Again, the same kind of antiquitech. Just repeated everywhere. And you do see that, you know, when they get a sort of a shape happening or a design, they tend to just repeat it across the same building. So I wonder if that's like a, you know, an energy signature, a frequency vibration that they're matching somehow through these shapes and fractal patterns and geometry. Heaps of chimneys. So what are chimneys? Still don't know what chimneys are. But yeah, I mean, just a massive, you know, why not? Why not build it? Don't know if that's new or not. That's kind of interesting, that wall bit. But yeah, University of Sydney. York Street at Winwood Square. Back 1800s, late 1800s, and again, just completely built out. So it just says, yeah, around 1900, doesn't tell me where. So I think, where's Winwood Square? Is that Sydney, York Street? I think it's Sydney. AM Cohen & Sons stationery, paper envelopes, type printing machineries, ad materials, and just, yeah, just like, as far as the eye can see, just completely built out. It's just everywhere. Now all these nice parks and gardens, wide roads, manicured. In the parks, we've always got, you know, the rotundas and the octagon-shaped, you know, buildings and like bandstands and all that kind of stuff. So just, you know, just a completely finished, built-out city, and they basically get here and they just start destroying it. Ooh, look at that. 33 electrical appliances. So there you go. I think that is the last picture. It is indeed. So yeah, just a bit of a walk through Sydney, and just to show you some of the architecture they were building and the time frame. You know, all of those buildings were built within 100 years of, you know, a boatload of people turning up with nothing, basically. You know, some tools, some food. Yeah, I'll have to look into the numbers. I'll have to do an episode on that, because to see how many horses they brought as well. You know, because the whole horse narrative is another thing that keeps playing on my mind. But I mean, look what they were building. But with this, you can see, you know, they could have facaded this. You can see this has all been finished with rock, or, you know, it's all been covered up, just so that we don't notice that everything really is just the same. Oh, Sydney Opera House. So there you go, guys. Thanks for spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed that one. Questioning the narrative and architecture of Australia. So yes, stay awesome. Thank you again for everyone who does support this channel. Thank you to all my Patreon and PayPal supporters, and everyone who buys merch from my shop. And of course, there is new merch out. I've got a few new designs. Free range human, humans win, turn off the TV. So get in there, check them out. Yeah, and if you like them, feel free to purchase, because it does all go towards helping this channel grow. So thanks again for your support and for your time. Love you all, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
You can take your face mask and you can shove them where the sun don't shine.